In life, there's a strange temptation that almost all of us fall victim to at some point. It's the urge to announce what we're about to do before we've actually done it. We get excited about an idea, a goal, a new ambition, and instead of building it in private, we start talking about it to everyone. Maybe it's to feel validated. Maybe it's to get a quick hit of encouragement. Maybe it's because we think that if people know we're working on something, it will keep us accountable. But here's the problem: every time you speak about your goals before you've achieved them, you leak a little of the energy that was meant to build them. There's a psychological principle at work here. When you tell people your plans and they respond positively, they nod, they smile, they say, "That's amazing." Your brain gets a small reward. Dopamine is released. You feel, for a moment, as if you've already done something important. But you haven't. You've only announced an intention. The danger is that your brain starts to confuse recognition for accomplishment. And so the urgency to actually go out and do the work fades just a little bit. Multiply that over weeks or months, and you end up with a list of ideas you've proudly told the world about, and very few results to show. That's why it's so important to let your results speak louder than your words. When you work in silence, without broadcasting every step, you preserve the energy that fuels the grind. You keep the momentum alive inside you, instead of letting it dissipate into conversations and social validation. It's like building pressure inside a sealed container. The tighter you keep it closed, the more powerful the eventual release. There's also another layer to this strategy. In chess, the player who reveals their strategy too early gives their opponent the opportunity to counter it. Life works much the same way. If you tell people exactly what you're going to do, you give them the chance, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, to throw obstacles in your path. That's not necessarily because people are malicious. Often it's subtle. They might question your plan, plant seeds of doubt, or tell you all the reasons it won't work. And even if you're strong-minded, those seeds can linger in the back of your mind, growing into hesitation. Silence protects you from that, but it's not just about protection. It's about impact. Think about the difference between someone who talks endlessly about what they're going to do and someone who suddenly, out of nowhere, shows up with undeniable results. The second person commands respect without ever having to ask for it. Their work is the proof. They don't need to argue for their credibility because their success is a living argument. That's the power of letting your actions do the talking. There's a humility to this approach as well. Silence forces you to put the focus where it belongs, not on how you're being perceived, but on the quality of your work. You stop thinking about how to present yourself and start thinking about how to perfect your craft. That shift is critical because the moment you care more about looking good than being good, you've already started to decline. Now, I'm not saying you should isolate yourself completely or never share your ambitions with anyone. There are moments when you need to discuss your ideas, to seek advice, to get feedback from trusted mentors, to collaborate. But that's very different from announcing your every move to the public or to people who don't have any stake in your growth. The key is discernment. Who you share with matters, why you share matters, and how much you share matters. If you really want to grasp the depth of this, think about some of history's great achievers. Many of them were not the loudest voices in the room while they were building their legacies. They worked obsessively in private, refining, adjusting, failing, learning, all away from the spotlight. Then one day, they emerged with something so complete, so undeniable, that the world had no choice but to take notice. That's not an accident. That's by design. This also ties into a deeper truth about human nature. People don't respect potential as much as they respect proof. You could have the most ambitious plan in the world, but until you've executed it, it's still just a possibility. And possibilities are fragile. They can be dismissed, laughed at, or forgotten. But results, real, tangible results, they can't be denied. They change the conversation. They turn, "I will," into "I did." When you work hard in silence, You train yourself to value the process instead of the performance. You become less addicted to the applause and more committed to the grind. That mindset builds resilience because you stop relying on others to keep you motivated. Your motivation comes from the satisfaction of building something meaningful, brick by brick, day after day, without needing anyone else to notice, until the day they can't help but notice. And here's the irony. The quieter you are while you build, the louder the world will be when they finally see what you've built. Because people can ignore your words. They can dismiss your promises, but they cannot ignore results that stand in front of them. That's the moment you don't have to say a word, because your work speaks in a voice far more powerful than any speech you could have given along the way. So, guard your ambitions like treasures. Protect the energy you have. Resist the temptation to trade tomorrow's achievement for today's recognition. Work in silence and let your results speak for you. Because in the end, the loudest voice you'll ever have will be the one you earn through action. There's something people often overlook about success. It's not only about what you do, it's also about what you protect yourself from. You can have all the ambition in the world. You can have a vision that excites you. You can even have the skills to pull it off. But if you allow too much noise to seep into your life, that fire will dim. And the most dangerous kind of noise isn't always the obvious negativity. Sometimes it's the subtle distractions, the little interruptions, the casual opinions that plant seeds of doubt and derail your focus before you even realize it's happening. When you broadcast your plans, you invite the world into your mental workspace. And here's the thing, most people don't know what to do with that invitation. Some will cheer you on, yes, but many will question you. They'll offer unsolicited advice, point out the risks, compare you to someone else who failed. And even if they're not malicious, even if they think they're helping, what they're really doing is leaking their own fears into your vision. Over time, the contamination weakens your resolve. It's like trying to grow a plant in soil that's constantly being disturbed. You can water it, give it sunlight, take care of it. But if people keep digging into it, poking at it, moving it around, it won't root deeply enough to survive. Your focus works the same way. It needs stability. It needs quiet. It needs to be shielded from the careless interference of those who don't fully understand what you're building. The truth is, not everyone will see the world the way you do. Not everyone will share your sense of urgency or your belief in the vision. And that's fine. It's not their responsibility to. But it is your responsibility to protect your mind from their distractions. That's one of the great disciplines of working in silence. It teaches you to create a boundary around your energy. You become selective about what you allow in because you understand that every conversation, every piece of feedback, every headline you consume either sharpens your focus or scatters it. Now, this doesn't mean you shut yourself off from all human interaction. We need other people. We need collaboration and feedback at the right moments. But there's a difference between seeking insight from someone you trust and opening the floodgates to every casual opinion that crosses your path. You have to curate your influences. Because here's what happens when you don't. You start building your life in reaction to other people's expectations instead of your own convictions. And when that happens, you're no longer leading your own journey. You're following an endless stream of external cues, pulled in a dozen directions, never fully committing to any. Another subtle threat is distraction disguised as productivity. You can spend hours talking about your plans, researching, organizing, networking, all of which seem productive on the surface. But if those actions aren't moving the work itself forward, they're just a sophisticated form of procrastination. And the more public you make your process, the easier it becomes to justify this. You tell yourself you're engaging with your audience or building accountability, when in reality, you're avoiding the deep, sometimes uncomfortable work that progress demands. That's why silence is so powerful. It strips away the illusion of progress and forces you to face the actual work. Without the constant validation of likes, comments, or verbal encouragement, You have to rely on your own internal compass. You're no longer performing productivity, you're living it. That's a very different experience, and it's uncomfortable at first because you lose the easy reassurance of public approval. But it's also freeing because your energy is no longer fragmented. Every ounce of it goes toward creation, execution, refinement. There's also a psychological resilience that develops when you protect your focus this way. You become less reactive to the ups and downs of the outside world. A bad comment can't derail you because you're not exposing yourself to a constant stream of them. Someone else's success doesn't throw you off course because you're too immersed in building your own. You stop playing the comparison game, and that alone can save you years of wasted energy. And let's be honest, we live in a culture that rewards noise. We are told to share the journey, build in public, show up every day. And while there's truth in some of that advice, it can also become a trap. The more you expose your process, the more you perform for the audience instead of for the work. And the more you perform, the less authentic your process becomes. Before long, you're shaping your actions to get a reaction, instead of shaping them to achieve the result you originally wanted. If you really want to protect your energy, you have to get comfortable being unseen for a while. You have to be willing to disappear into the work, even if people start wondering where you went, even if no one's clapping for you in the meantime. That invisibility is not a loss. It's an investment. It's the time you spend building the foundation so that when you do emerge, you're not presenting a half-formed idea, but a finished product, a complete skill set, a level of excellence that commands attention without asking for it. And here's the paradox: the more you protect your energy now, the more power you'll have to create impact later. Because the world will always try to pull you in 100 directions. It will always try to interrupt you, distract you, or drain you with noise that doesn't matter. If you don't learn to defend against that, you'll end up busy but not effective, surrounded by movement but starved of progress. So, protect your energy like it's the most valuable currency you own, because it is. Don't spend it on battles that don't matter. Don't waste it on people who haven't earned the right to influence your path. And don't trade it for the temporary comfort of being seen when what you really want is the lasting satisfaction of having built something meaningful. Guard your focus. Protect your vision. Keep the distractions outside the walls of your mind. Because in the end, the work you complete in peace will always be stronger than the work you rush to show under pressure. And remember this: silence is not emptiness, it's preservation. It's the space where your ideas grow roots deep enough to withstand any storm. When you work in silence, something else happens beyond just protecting your plans or avoiding distractions. You start to develop a very particular kind of strength, the strength of self-reliance. Because when there's no audience watching you, no crowd cheering you on, no one handing out gold stars for effort, you have only one thing to depend on: your own discipline. And discipline, when it's forged without external approval, is one of the most unshakable forces you can build in life. This is why working in silence is not just a tactic, it's a training ground. It's a way of stripping away the comforts that make us soft. We live in an era where validation is instant and everywhere. Post something online, and within minutes you can have 100 little pings of approval. That feels good, sure, but it's deceptive. It tricks you into believing you're making progress just because people see you. Real progress, though, is measured by what you produce, not by who's watching you produce it. When you deliberately remove yourself from that constant loop of recognition, you learn how to move forward without applause. And that's critical, because applause will not always be there. There will be times in your life when you're grinding through the work and no one notices. No one thanks you. No one even seems to care. If you haven't built the ability to keep going in those moments, you'll stop the first time the silence gets uncomfortable. But if you've trained yourself to thrive in that silence, you'll keep going, not because someone is watching, but because you've internalized a deeper reason to work. You'll work because the work itself matters to you. You'll work because you've decided that your commitment is not dependent on recognition. And that's where real confidence comes from, knowing you can rely on yourself to keep going even when the world isn't paying attention. There's a philosophy buried in this, and it's one worth taking seriously. If your sense of worth is always tied to external validation, you are forever at the mercy of other people's attention spans. But if your sense of worth is tied to your own standards, your own effort, your own code, then you carry that stability with you everywhere you go. That's not just confidence, that's independence. Working in silence teaches you patience too. It forces you to accept that mastery doesn't happen in a day, a week, or even a year. It's the product of long, often repetitive effort that no one else sees. People who crave constant recognition can't handle that. They get bored, they get restless, they start chasing the next shiny thing just so they can have something to post about. But people who've built discipline in the dark, they're steady. They know that great work is slow work. They're willing to stay with the process for as long as it takes because they've stopped needing the immediate rush of attention. There's also a humility that comes with this mindset. You stop feeling the need to prove yourself at every stage because you're no longer competing for daily validation. Your focus shifts from, how do I look right now, to, how can I get better over time? That's a fundamental shift, and it's the one that separates people who burn out quickly from those who keep improving year after year. Now, none of this is easy. Silence can feel like loneliness. Discipline can feel like deprivation. Confidence built from the inside out doesn't happen overnight. It's uncomfortable, it's unglamorous, and it requires a level of self-honesty most people avoid. But it's worth it because once you have it, you stop being fragile. You stop being someone who crumbles without approval. You become someone who can move through the noise and the criticism and the indifference of the world without losing momentum. And ironically, that's what makes you more impactful when you finally do step into the spotlight. Because you're not stepping into it needy or desperate for approval. You're stepping into it already whole. You're presenting work that you've tested against your own highest standards, not work that's been shaped to please the crowd. People can feel that difference. They can tell when someone's confidence is rooted in their own discipline rather than borrowed from public opinion. So, working in silence isn't about hiding, it's about preparing. It's about putting in the kind of work that builds a foundation so solid that when the world finally sees it, it's undeniable. You don't have to explain it, you don't have to justify it. It speaks for itself because you built it to last. And the truth is, the only way to build something like that is to stop relying on external motivation. Motivation is fickle, it comes and goes. Discipline is steady. If you anchor yourself to discipline instead of motivation, you don't need the highs of applause to keep going. You just keep going because that's who you've trained yourself to be. That's the ultimate reward of working in silence. You come out of it with an unshakable sense of who you are and what you can do. You've proven to yourself that you can handle the grind without anyone holding your hand. And when you've done that, the next challenge doesn't intimidate you. It excites you. Because you know you can meet it, even if no one else sees you doing it until the very end. So understand this: every hour you spend quietly working when no one's watching, every moment you choose discipline over distraction, every day you keep building when you could have quit, those are deposits into your confidence account. And one day, when you need to draw from it, you'll find it overflowing. Silence is not weakness. Discipline without an audience is not wasted effort. And confidence that comes from within is not just powerful, it's permanent. Remember this: the person who can walk alone is the person who can walk anywhere. Most people underestimate the power of quiet progress. We've been conditioned to believe that if we're not constantly announcing what we're doing, we're somehow falling behind. We think we have to share every detail of our plans to stay relevant or to prove we're working hard. But the truth is, the loudest workers are often the least productive, because so much of their energy is spent performing effort rather than applying it. Real work, The kind that changes your life is built in silence, away from the distractions of attention. When you keep your plans to yourself, you protect something fragile: momentum. The moment you tell the world what you're going to do, you give away a part of that energy. There's a small dopamine rush that comes with being recognized for your intentions, but that same rush can trick your brain to thinking you've already achieved something. Over time, you find yourself more addicted to talking about the goal than actually pursuing it. Silence shields you from that trap. It keeps the pressure and the urgency inside you where it belongs until the work is finished. And it's not just about avoiding the psychological pitfall, it's about strategy. When you reveal your every move, you open the door for interference. Sometimes that interference comes as outright criticism, sometimes as subtle doubt, and sometimes as distraction disguised as support. Even well-meaning people can unknowingly plant seeds that weaken your conviction. But when you keep your plans contained, you eliminate the opportunity for those seeds to take root. Your focus remains pure, undiluted by other people's limitations or fears. Silence also protects you from another danger: the constant pull of comparison. The moment you step into the public arena with your work in progress, you invite comparisons to others. You begin to measure your pace, your results, and your value against people whose circumstances you can't fully see. That's a losing game. Comparison breeds impatience, and impatience drives shortcuts. But when you're working quietly, you're not running someone else's race. You're running your own. The only standard you're measuring against is the one you've set for yourself. And in that space, without an audience to please, something deeper starts to happen. You begin to develop discipline. Not the kind that relies on a motivational quote or a burst of inspiration, but the kind that's built brick by brick, day after day, in the absence of applause. It's a discipline born out of commitment to the work itself. You start showing up not because someone is watching, but because you've decided you're the kind of person who keeps promises to yourself. That's where unshakable confidence comes from. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. You earn it by proving to yourself over and over that you can endure the grind without needing validation at every step. And when you finally do bring your work into the light, that confidence shows. People can sense when someone is rooted in their own discipline rather than in public opinion. It's why some people command respect without asking for it. Their results are undeniable, and they didn't need to shout about them along the way. There's humility in that too. Working in silence strips away the ego. It forces you to focus on being good rather than looking good. It makes you prioritize mastery over image. And paradoxically, the less you try to prove yourself, the more your work ends up proving itself for you. Because when you finally reveal what you've built, there's nothing for anyone to argue with. It's right there. It exists. It works. This approach also teaches you patience, a skill most people have forgotten. In a culture obsessed with speed and visibility, patience has become rare. But great work is slow work. It requires repetition, refinement, and periods of invisibility. Those who can't handle the quiet phases are the ones who abandon their goals halfway through. Those who embrace them are the ones who emerge with something lasting. And here's the paradox that most people never understand. The quieter you are while you build, the louder your results will be when you finally show them. The world will forget your words, but it will remember what you've done. That's the essence of working hard in silence. You're not chasing the noise now, because you're building the echo that will last far longer than any applause. Of course, there will be moments when silence feels heavy. You might doubt whether anyone will care about your work when it's finished. You might feel tempted to break that quiet, just to remind people you're still doing something. That's when you have to remember that your work is not about them. It's about you, your standards, your growth. And the only opinion that truly matters during the process is your own. Guard your energy fiercely. The world will try to pull you in 100 different directions, with opinions, with distractions, with temptations to show off half-finished work for a quick hit of recognition. But every time you give in to that, you spend the energy you need to finish, Keep your circle small. Share your progress only with those who genuinely contribute to it. The rest of the world can wait until the work speaks for itself. Because when you operate this way, you not only protect your focus, you also build something much rarer: independence of mind. You stop being swayed by trends, by other people's schedules, by the need to fit in. You develop an internal compass strong enough to guide you through uncertainty. And that is the kind of strength that carries over into every area of life. The truth is, most people won't have the patience for this path. They'll keep talking, keep announcing, keep chasing quick recognition. And that's fine, but that also means that when your work finally appears, it will stand apart. It will have weight. It will have depth. It will have the unmistakable presence of something built with discipline, protected from noise, and driven by a purpose greater than applause. So if you take nothing else from this, take this. Your silence is not a void. It's a forge. It's where discipline is tempered, where distractions are burned away, where confidence is hammered into shape. Every day you choose the work over the performance, you're making yourself stronger. Every time you protect your vision, instead of exposing it to the wrong audience, you're ensuring it survives long enough to thrive. And when the day comes that you finally step into the light, you won't have to tell anyone how hard you worked. They'll see it, they'll feel it, and they'll know. Noise fades. Results remain. Build the thing worth showing, then let it speak for you.